Okay, so have you ever wished you could, like, change the tone of something you wrote? Like, without totally rewriting the whole thing?
Oh, all the time.
Right. Because it seems like this tone changer prompt we're diving into today, it might be that magic solution.
Yeah, this is from George Tomes, the Generative AI Professional Prompt Engineering Guide, right?
Exactly. And it's a game changer.
It is. And what's so cool about it is, we talk a lot about AI in writing, but this is different. It's not just about spitting out words. It's about understanding the feeling behind them.
That's what's so fascinating to me. It's like emotional intelligence, but for the written word. Because how many times has a text or email gone wrong just because the tone was misinterpreted?
Ugh, don't even get me started. But that's what this tone changer seems to solve. Like, imagine being able to take something you wrote, maybe it sounds too harsh or too casual, and just tell the AI, make this more professional or make this more empathetic.
Right, like it does that heavy lifting for you, but in a way that still feels authentic.
Exactly. And the guide does a great job explaining how it actually works, which, let me tell you, is way less complicated than it sounds.
So break it down for us. How does it actually work?
Basically, you give the AI a piece of your writing. Could be anything, an email, a social media post, even a presentation.
Okay, so you feed it the text. Then what?
Then you tell it what tone you want to achieve. And the guide actually provides a whole list of options to choose from, like persuasive, formal, informal, you name it.
So it's not just like a thesaurus swapping out synonyms. This thing actually analyzes the feeling of your words.
Exactly. And that's because it's been trained on this massive amount of data, enough to recognize the patterns in language that we associate with different emotions.
So when you tell it make this more persuasive, it's not just changing a few words here and there, it's adjusting the entire structure and flow to fit that goal.
You got it.
That is incredible. It's like having a personal editor who speaks fluent emotion.
Right. And the best part is the guide doesn't just stop at the theory. It dives right into some really practical, real-world applications for this thing.
Yeah, give us some examples. Like how would someone actually use this tone changer in their daily life?
Oh, so many ways. One of the most practical ones is taking those super robotic technical announcements we all get and injecting some humanity into them. Like, instead of "we are experiencing an unexpected service interruption," it could be rewritten as, "Hey folks, really sorry about this, but we're having a few technical hiccups."
Subtle change, but so powerful. Suddenly it feels like an actual person is talking to you.
Exactly. Or think about salespeople. Imagine being able to instantly tailor your pitch to sound more persuasive to a high-value client. That's huge.
Okay, now that is a game changer for anyone who writes for a living. But the guide goes even deeper than that, right? Like you can actually customize the tone beyond those preset options.
Absolutely.
So like it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. You can really fine-tune it to match your voice.
It's true. Say you want to sound empathetic, but you need it to be tailored to your specific situation. The guide talks about how you can actually define what that tone means to you, giving the AI a crash course in your personal communication style.
So you're almost having a conversation with the AI about feelings, making sure you're on the same page.
Exactly. It's all about understanding that this technology is incredibly powerful, but it's still a tool. We're in the driver's seat. And the more specific and clear our instructions are, the better the results.
I like that. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's talk about those potential bumps in the road. The guide mentions something called hallucinations. What does that even mean in this context?
Yeah, so as amazing as this AI is, sometimes it can, well, go off the rails a bit.
Oh no, like what?
Basically, it might generate text that just sounds completely off topic or nonsensical.
So it's like it gets a little carried away with the creative process.
Exactly. But the good news is the guide offers a really simple solution for when that happens.
Okay.
Just start a fresh conversation with the AI. Especially if you're working with really long pieces of text or complex tone changes, hitting that refresh button can really help prevent those hallucinations and keep things on track.
So clean slate, new task. Makes sense. And speaking of new tasks, the guide actually provides a bunch of other really cool tips for customization. Like, what if you're not just tweaking a sentence, but working with a whole document?
Yeah, it's in there. The guide talks about how you can adjust the prompt to handle longer pieces of text. So instead of pasting in little snippets, you could upload a whole document if you needed to.
Oh, wow, that's handy. So like if you had a draft of a speech or something.
Exactly. And it even gets into how to fine-tune those emotional tones. Like, say you pick optimistic, but you want to make sure the AI understands what optimistic means to you.
So it's not just using a generic definition. It's learning your personal style guide.
Right. The guide actually has the section called tone definitions, and it's like a cheat sheet for how you want the AI to interpret different emotions.
That is so cool. It's
It-
like teaching the AI to speak your language, both literally and emotionally.
Exactly. And I think that's a really important point to emphasize because we can get so caught up in the tech side of things that we forget there's still a human element to all of this.
Absolutely. It's not about replacing our own skills or creativity. It's about amplifying them. But, okay, I want to make sure we bring this back to our listener for a sec. We've talked a lot about how this tone changer works, but why should they care? How does this impact their day-to-day life?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And I think it boils down to this. How many times have you struggled to get your point across in writing? Whether it's an email that sounded too harsh or a text message that completely missed the mark. This tool is like a safety net for clear communication.
Ooh, yes. Because we've all been there. That awkward family text chain where your joke fell flat. Or trying to give someone feedback that's honest but also constructive without sounding like a jerk.
Exactly. And those are just the everyday examples. The guide even talks about how HR departments could use this, especially with sensitive topics. Like, imagine having to announce policy changes or something.
Right. The tone changer could help make sure those messages land with empathy and understanding instead of just sounding cold and corporate.
Exactly. Or think about high-pressure situations, like writing a cover letter for your dream job.
Oh, man. The stakes are high.
Right. You want to project confidence, but not sound arrogant. The tone changer can help you fine-tune that message to make sure you're putting your best foot forward.
It's like having a secret weapon for your communication arsenal. Which, speaking of, the guide had a whole section on how salespeople could use this, right? I think we touched on it earlier, but it's worth revisiting.
Definitely. They used the example of crafting a persuasive pitch for a high-value client. Now, you could spend hours agonizing over every word choice. Or you could use the tone changer to make sure your message is landing exactly as intended, professional, confident, but not pushy.
Because ultimately, that's what it's all about. It's not about replacing our own abilities. It's about working smarter, not harder. And this kind of prompt engineering allows us to do just that.
100%. It's like having this incredible superpower, but for communication.
Right. But let's bring it back down to earth for a second. We've talked about these broader applications, but I want to make sure our listener could really picture how this would work in their own lives.
Of course. Let's take a super specific example from the guide, something I'm sure we've all encountered before. Those super dry, jargon-filled technical announcements.
You mean like instead of saying users may experience intermittent connectivity issues like, hey, we know it's frustrating, but we're having some on and off glitches with the system.
Right. See it much better.
Yeah, way better.
It's still explaining the problem, but it feels more human, you know?
Way more relatable, for sure. Which, honestly, is something we could all use a little more of, right?
Yeah.
Especially in this whole tech-driven world.
I agree. And that's what's so exciting about this tone changer. It's not just about, making AI do the writing for us. It's about taking this powerful technology and using it to connect with each other in a better way.
I love that. And the crazy thing is, this is just the beginning. It feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible with this stuff.
Totally. Who knows what other incredible tools are just around the corner, right?
Right. But I do want to say, for anyone listening who might be feeling a little overwhelmed, like, where do I even start? You don't have to be a tech expert to use this stuff.
Not at all. And guides like this one from George Tome, they do a great job of breaking it down into manageable steps.
Exactly. It's all about exploring and playing around with these new tools. We're all figuring this out together.
We are, and honestly, that's part of the fun, right?
Totally. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the tone changer, I think the biggest question for our listeners is this. What will you create differently now that you know about this tool?
What new possibilities can you unlock with the power of AI at your fingertips?
Keep exploring, keep experimenting, and as always, keep sharing what you learn.